This is my killer tier list as of the artist mid chapter. If I do sound a bit weird in this video, I have a wee bit of a cold, just a bit of a blocked up nose, so I might sound breathless or, like a little bit croaky. Uh, but I will get into this. So the criteria for this list, um, I will be including all add-ons unless a killer has like one or two specific add-ons that just make them way stronger than they normally would be. A good example would be Clown's Pinky Finger. Despite the fact it's getting nerfed, even when you combine it with Gin Ball, it still makes Clown from where he is down in the D tier there to I'd say maybe like top of B tier. So I won't be including things like that or Myers, Tombstone add-ons, but I will still include some iridescence and stuff like, for example, Trappers, which don't make him way stronger than he normally is. I'll assume that all killers are being played to a very high level, not an impossibly high level because mistakes can still be made. And I'll also assume that you're going against a good survivor team. And when I say good, I mean a good team. Like, there are no weak links. They're all good players. Uh, they're not an absolute comp team, but uh, you will struggle against teams like this. And I will, for the sake of the argument, just assume that every killer is on a favourable map. Because if we assume that Blight played on Swamp every time, he would be D tier. If we assume that Myers played on Larry's every time, he would be B tier. So we'll just assume that it's, a favourable map, but not the best map every time. With that being said, let's start. I'll start at the bottom because I feel like some of the lower placements are a wee bit more interesting. Starting with the Pig, who is, in my opinion, at the minute, probably the worst killer in the game. I've always sort of thought the Pig was, but with their recent nerf to Tamper Timer and Creative Gears, it sort of took away the only thing that maybe made Pig a bit stronger. So Pig really isn't in a good spot. Her ambush is essentially useless against any competent survivor. Her stealth slows her down way too much to be viable, and her reverse bear traps can buy you anywhere between 10 and 2 minutes, but you'll never gain that much time from them. And your complete lack of mobility or an loop, it just makes Peg a really bad killer. She really can't do anything. You'll find a lot of the times as Peg that you just feel powerless. But I don't want to rattle on it too much, or else this video is going to take too long. I'm going to sort of just quickly go over some of the more usual placements. Next is Legion. We all know why Legion's bad. The power, you activate for a frenzy, you hit them, you take your stun, and you chase them down without a power. What makes Legion bad is their lack of real potential to get any good survivor. If they know how to loop, you're not catching them as Legion. You'll get the first hit, but good luck in the second one, especially with Dead Hard. And even then, you can't really chain hits, especially on big maps. And if survivors spread out, you won't be able to chain them. So for those reasons, Legion just isn't a good killer. And like I said, a lot of times I think they need a full rework because their power just doesn't work. It's very easy to counter, and it's not like it's a completely free hit. You still need to get pretty close to them to use Feral Frenzy, and then you actually have to go and then hit them, and you still get 4 seconds stun either way. So I think he is overrated a bit in that department, and where it really isn't a free hit. Next is Trapper. Trapper, Trapper's just Trapper. He always will be. He's the killer that has to go out and look for his power. He's the killer that, some games you will get you will literally get 0 traps, and some games you will get 10. He's the killer that sometimes they got in their first try, sometimes they got in their 6th try. He's just inconsistent, and even even though I'm considering a favorable map, he is still very map reliant. And like I said in this tier list, I am saying it's a favorable map. That's not me saying that I won't sort of deduct points for being map reliant, which Trapper is. Next is Myers. We know why Myers is bad. He spends a lot of time setting up his power, stalking, and all that for very little payoff. Tier 2 gives you essentially nothing, and Tier 3 gives you exposed and an extended lunge and a faster vault. Even good survivors really don't care about Tier 3 that much. You can still just hold distance on him, and you can loop him like you would any other killer. But he does have a wee bit of potential for snowball, and on the right map, he can actually do somewhat well against bad teams. But we're assuming it's a good team, so he's going to be down in the D tier. Next is Clown, who is getting nerfed in the next update. Um, we all know White Clown is bad as well. His complete lack of mobility. His only redeeming factor is his anti loop, which is very subpar. Despite being his only strength, he's still not very good at it, which is just why Clown isn't good. He's got an anti loop power, and it doesn't really help him that much. There's not really much else to say. Next is Freddy, who I think has just gotten nerfed way too much. He was never really that good, but I'll tell you why Freddy's bad. First is his dream snares. You have to be asleep to be affected by them, meaning, if you just woke up or anything like that, Freddy is a completely powerless killer against you in chase. And even when you are asleep, these snares don't really do much unless you greed. But if you play it safe and drop pallets when you're supposed to, you really won't go down fast at all to Freddy. His gen teleport, while nice for mobility, is on a fairly lengthy cooldown, and it's only limited to generators, so you can't really use it to catch up to people. You can't use it to get the people who are healing. You can only use it to get the generators. On top of that, he has really no good add-ons at all. But he isn't very map reliant, I guess, which is nice. But Freddy really isn't good, and a good team should have absolutely no problem just completely gen rushing the shit out of him. Next is probably the most sad placement for me. It's going to be Deathslinger. Deathslinger, as a lot of you know, used to be my top 5 killer. I used to put it as Nurse, Spirit, Blight, Deathslinger, and Oni. But with the nerf he got in the Hellraiser mid chapter, it has completely destroyed this killer in every sense. Not just he's incredibly weaker, but he is incredibly unfun to play. Playing Deathslinger, I've played him a few times after his nerf, feels awful. Um, I told everyone that the ADS is what made him strong, and his small terror is what made him strong. They took away both of those things. You can now just hold W versus Deathslinger and keep distance on him, which destroys him. And even when you're close, um, he doesn't work anymore. The small cracks he used to be able to shoot through were only partly because of his hitbox. It was mostly because of the instant ADS. Deathslinger was able to land these crazy shots at loops because you would usually have like less than half a second of the survivor running past like a wee gap in the loop. His instant ADS allowed him to immediately aim and shoot, react and hit that survivor. That's what made him strong. With the ADS now you have to pre-aim these. And if you have to pre-aim, the survivor can see you pre-aiming and then dodge your shot. It's as simple as that. He just doesn't function anymore. Not to mention, you can't even hit long range shots anymore because survivors have more than enough time to react to you. They can just dodge your shot. So Deathslinger just does not function as a killer anymore. The things that made him somewhat viable, the things that made him Deathslinger, are now gone. He is a worthless killer. And either revert the changes they did or just remove him from the game because there's no point in having Deathslinger in the game anymore. They might as well just remove him and everyone just go play Hunters. Starting to see tier is going to be Wraith. A wide back Wraith used to actually be pretty solid, but the nerf to his lunge really did hurt him. Made him a lot less viable at loops. And made it so survivors have more of an opportunity to get to a pallet or something when you sneak up on them. On top of that, the thing that really hurt Wraith was the introduction of Circle of Healing and the constant use of med kits by survivors. This makes the hit and run playstyle, which was complained about so much, completely irrelevant. So, the constant complaining about survivors gets Wraith nerfed within like a month, but then like a month later, a healing meta just completely comes around, which would completely shit on Wraith anyway, making the nerf completely unnecessary, which it already was, but it just made Wraith even weaker than what he should be. That being said, he does have still solid mobility and solid catch up, which means I don't think he should be in the D tier. Next is Hellbilly. Redeeming factors of Hellbilly: mobility and an insta down. That's it. I'd say Hellbilly is probably one of, if not the easiest killer to loop in the game. Uh, Against good survivors, which is what we're assuming you're playing against, uh, you cannot use your chainsaw loops. Like, I'm sorry, but you cannot use your chainsaw loops. I don't care if you're one of the best Hellblade players in this game. If the survivor knows what they're doing, uh, it's going to take minutes to get a chainsaw hit on them. Uh, I was in a custom match with a friend. He was trying to curve on me, and it took him about well over 20 attempts to land one curve on me on the most favorable loop, which is the Auto Haven car loop. And it took him well over nearly 2 minutes just to land a curve on me. And that was me staying at the loop and allowing him to do that. Which in a real game, I'm going to take distance every time he misses a curve. So, you people out there that are going to say curving straight up just does not work. It's really bad and inconsistent. And even then, you can only curve like 5% of the loops in the game, and the curving isn't very effective. So I don't think Hellbilly's good. I think even if they reverted the nerfs on him, he still wouldn't be good, just because he's that easy to loop. Next is Ghostface, who is another killer that got hurt heavily by the healing meta. That being said, he does have the ability to insta down, which sort of counters the healing meta. I think we've just seen Ghostface not really shift in terms of strength, but in terms of playstyle. He's not really any weaker than he used to be, but I do recommend that you just stalk a lot more as Ghostface now to get those one shots. Uh, Even then, he's not very good. I don't think he ever will be. Stealth killers will never be the meta, in my opinion. But Ghostface still has the ability to, if he's lucky, just expose you and down you within 5 seconds without the survivor really knowing any better, just because they got unlucky and didn't spot you. But I don't think Ghostface is very good because at the end of the day, he does rely a lot on luck and just hoping the survivors don't see you. If they just keep managing to spot you, then you will get absolutely destroyed. Next is Twins, who have drastically dropped. This is because Twins used to be pretty good when they came out. Uh, they were nerfed, which dropped them in strength a wee bit. Then the healing meta, which also really hurt them. Survivors just getting better in general against playing against Twins. And with the upcoming add-on nerfs, which aren't going to hurt them that much, I just think Twins have sort of, had their moment and are now just sort of sitting in the bottom of the barrel with the rest of the weak killers. I don't think Twins are very good. Even if you play them well, survivors play their cards right, they'll literally be able to pick each other up before Charlotte can even go and pick them up. I've seen it when Dicey played against Oracle at one time. And I'm not saying you're playing against Oracle, but you don't have to be Oracle to, run We're Gonna Live Forever. They were getting picked up within like 6 or 7 seconds every time, which didn't even allow him to go and pick them up. So I don't think Twins are very good, especially with the current meta. Next is Doctor, who has sort of, once again, dwindled in strength. The healing meta hurts him. He has no ability to insta down or anything like that, or to catch up fast. So obviously, everyone being healthy constantly is going to really hurt him. But in general, Doctor just isn't very strong. His anti-loop is subpar. He has no mobility. His tracking, while nice, is on a lengthy cooldown. So I don't think Doctor's that great, and I would like to see some buffs for him. Starting the B tier is Pinhead. I recently made a poll asking where people should think I should put him. I was originally going to put him in the C tier, but with the majority of people saying B tier and stuff, I will put him in B tier, but just barely. I don't think Pinhead's very good, especially with his constant add-on nerfs. Uh, I maybe would have put him higher in the B tier if it weren't for all the add-on nerfs he's got, but sorry, I really needed a drink of water there. But yeah, like I was saying, uh, I don't think Pinhead's very good. His main ability, which is the possess chain, does not really help you in loops that much. It doesn't let you catch up to people. Safe pallets are still safe. He doesn't really have the ability to shut down loops really fast. Uh, I'm not saying it's useless, but I find on average you literally have to hit the survivor like 6 times per chase with your chains, and that's just way too many times, and it's way too much effort as well. This is assuming you aren't even missing your chains, which is very easy to do. This is assuming you have like a 90% accuracy rate with your chains, but you do have to hit survivors so many times just to get 2 hits, where it's just really time consuming. You'll find that your chasers are just way too long and there's not much you can do about it. Even if you're playing perfectly and added all your chains, you'll still find that your chases are lasting at least like 50 seconds to like 2 minutes nearly, but you would never commit that long. But they could last that long. And then, people bring up the argument of chain hunts. They say, oh, but when a chain hunt's active, no one can work in gens and your chase is even stronger. It is. But I'm saying you're against four good survivors. And you don't have to be a four-man survivor, friends, to stop chain hunts. Occasionally, someone just needs to take the, intuitive to just go grab the box. And that completely stops the chain hunt. And it's every 90 seconds. One survivor every 90 seconds just runs over and picks up the box. That's not hard. That's not hard at all. Assuming Pinhead doesn't actually find the box, he realistically shouldn't get any chain hunts, uh, which is realistic against four good survivors, which is why I'm putting him at the bottom of the B tier. I don't think he's very good, and I do think he needs a lot of buffs, but for now, I am going to put him in the bottom of B tier. Next is Nemesis. Nemesis suffers basically the issue of time efficiency. You start off the game a lot weaker than your, sort of final form, I guess. You have to constantly contaminate people, which is a waste of time. They keep getting distance on you. You've no mobility, no catch up, no nothing. It's sort of the same story as Pinhead. Even if you play perfectly, you'll find that your chases just aren't fast enough, and there's not much you can do about that. As someone who's survivor plays well and just holds their distance against you, they should have no issue looping you for at least like similar to Pinhead, like 50 seconds to a minute and a half. And, they don't even need that many strong setups to do that. They basically just need to take the contamination hit, keep running, get to a loop, put a bit of distance between you and them, and then, take the other two hits. And that's enough time for, a gen to get done. And you do that a few times, and before you know it, you're on 5 gens and like 4 hooks. It's just the reality of killer nowadays, but Nemesis really does get hit like that, harder than most killers do. Next is Leatherface, who most people will put a lot higher. I'm not doing that. I don't think Leatherface is that good. Um, I think people really overestimate how fast he can down you. Uh, a team that's efficient in gents, which is what I'm assuming here, shouldn't have much of an issue against Leatherface. You know, he has no mobility, he has no catch up. He's one of those killers, once again, where you just want to keep your distance. If you just keep good spacing between you and Leatherface, you should just buy your team enough time between each chase to just get all 5 gens done before anyone's like dead. He's a really good camper, but camping isn't an efficient strategy unless they're altruistic, which we're going to assume that they aren't altruistic because altruism is a bad play, and good survivors don't make bad plays. I'm assuming they don't mess up, then they shouldn't have much of an issue. Now you do get a lot stronger late game when most of the pallets are gone, but by then all 5 gens will be done. So he is going to sit around like low B tier for now, but at least he does sort of counter the healing meta because his chainsaw is very accessible. You can use it quite a lot. This is Demogorgon, who I sort of debated putting above Bubba, but I am going to do it just because of the fact that uh, with his mobility from the portals, and if you do get lucky with the shreds, assuming most loops do favour you, which is why I'm assuming it's a decent map. So something like Macmillan, where a significant portion of the loops you can use your ability at, and you are good with it. Like he's not terrible. Plus he does have the ability to shred pallets, not as good as Bubba, but still better than most killers. The reason he's not any higher is because good survivors shouldn't have any baller looping you from it for a significant amount of time. Even on loops that favour you, they will usually just pre-drop the pallet and once again just take distance. And this is going to be another one of those situations where you find yourself on like 5 hooks with 5 gens just because even though you felt your chases were decent, uh, the gens were just faster. And that's usually the way it goes and the way you'll find it with these B and C tier killers. Next is Plague, who I've put up a bit from the previous tier lists. Because of her buff, made her a wee bit better. Not much stronger, but she does feel a bit better to play. But mostly because she does counter the healing meta. But despite countering the healing meta, Plague still has Plague issues. You start the game with no one infected and shit. They can just start doing gens. You have to. It's a lengthy process to get everyone infected, and then once they are infected, there's really nothing stopping them from looping you. But even when you have that corrupt purge, you can get unlucky with it. Against good survivors, you won't get the snowball you're looking for with one corrupt purge. It's just not going to happen. Plus, if they're not healing, then they're on gens. Even though healing is really strong, if you're not healing against plague, which you don't do, that just gives them even more time to do gens. So they're just going to go even faster, which gives plague even less time to try and kill them. Uh, but she is going to sit the middle of B tier because she does still have the chance to snowball. And if someone does cleanse, which even good survivors occasionally do, given the right circumstances, then that can give you another opportunity to snowball. But I do think Plague is going to sort of be stuck in this mid tier hell until she gets like a more significant buff. But I don't really think she really needs one. She's in a pretty decent spot right now, so I would leave her. The next one might surprise some people, but it's going to be Trickster. Uh, yeah, Trickster sort of got nerfed and buffed and nerfed and buffed and nerfed and buffed multiple times, but I think where he is right now, I'm going to put him sort of in the high end of B tier. I think why Trickster is seen as bad by most people is one, because no one plays him. Like, what Trickster means are out there are they're out there. Lilith Omen, you got Blight, you got Coconut RTS for Huntress. Who is there for Trickster? There's no one who sank a ton of time into Trickster. We don't even know Trickster's full potential. Like, the best Trickster I have seen is Coconut RTS, and he doesn't even main Trickster. He is so hard to play. He's one of the hardest killers to play in the game, and the hardest to play on console in my opinion. But I've been trying to practice him, and I have got a bit better, and I think he's not that bad. He really does shred you when you're in the right spots on the right map. There are some issues with Trickster, his lack of mobility, but I think the main issue with Trickster is that some tiles, like Killer Shack and Jungle Gyms, you can't really use your power very effectively. It just takes way too long to get a hit at them, which is where Trickster's downfall is, and which is why he isn't up with Hunters. But I think if someone got really, really good with Trickster, he would actually be up there near Hunters. But we still yet to see like a god tier Trickster, which I would really want to see. This is Hag, who I think is still probably the most overrated killer in the game. Hag's not that good. I'm telling you this now. She takes a long time to set up. You have to go around the map trapping up. Uh, when your traps are laid, there's nothing stopping from a survivor from just running around disarming them all right behind you. When you pick up a survivor after downing them, people will sort of run around the area trying to disable all your traps. They'll recognize the Hag's been over there for most of the match. That's where our traps are going to be. We'll try and avoid that area. When they'll get hit, they'll run away from your trapped area. So even if you do follow them and manage to down them, your traps aren't going to be around the place. So when they get unhooked, it won't be as dangerous. The BT buff that happened a while ago was a nerf to Hag because she can't just teleport that hook and then hit the guy with BT. All these things have just made Hag weaker. Plus the healing meta, Hag can't really snowball. Hag snowball from people being injured, but with everyone healthy these days, Hag just can't get a snowball. The next one I feel is going to be quite controversial, but I'm putting Spirit at the top of B tier. Originally, I did have her and Hag in A tier, but I didn't feel like they were on the same caliber as the A tier killers. I think Spirit's nerf really hurt her. At first, I didn't think it hurt her that much. I still actually put her high A tier. But the more I play her, the more I play against her, and the more I see people play against her, the more I realize that the nerf really did hurt Spirit. Um, it's really easy to just sort of play around her now if you have the right stuff to work with. She's really easy to track, and it's especially noticeable. I think True Talent is very good against Spirit. Now, I don't really like mentioning streamers' names because you can get flack with it, especially mentioning True Talent. But I will say, I think True Talent is really good against Spirit. Watching him play against Spirit, he can track her so well. I've seen True Tech Spirits on minute chases, like way, 2 minutes, 3 minute chases, uh, with not much to work with. And they weren't bad Spirits. True was just playing really well. Uh, and once again, the healing meta really hurt Spirit. Spirit doesn't like it when people are healthy. They're a lot harder to track when they're healthy. And with people constantly being healthy, basically every time you find them now, it's going to make your chases last even longer. And a lot of people also use Iron Will. And when a survivor is Iron Will against Spirit, It's more in the survivor's favor now. They can track where you are, and you have a really hard time tracking when they are. Uh, so I don't think Spirit's that good anymore. She's not a bad killer by any means, but she is nowhere near the strength she used to be. So for now, I'm going to put Spirit in the B tier. My mind could change. I could put her up. I could even put her even lower. But I think I will put her here for now. Starting the A tier is going to be Huntress. Uh, I was debating on whether to put her over Artist or below, but I put her below Artist. Not much to say about Huntress. If you're really good with her, she can't be really strong. And once again, we're assuming that each killer is getting like a favorable map, although Huntress really is map reliant, which is another reason why I didn't want to put her over Artist, because indoor maps and stuff like that, and then maps with bad hitboxes, Huntress really does not like. Uh, and when the survivors play really well, it's going to be really hard for her to get a snowball. Once again, healing really strong against Huntress. The more survivors are healthy against you, she can have trouble constantly having to get through two health states. But that being said, good Huntress still manages to down good survivors in a fairly reasonable amount of time. And next is our newest killer, the Artist. I was debating on a long time whether to put Artist. Initially, I thought, B tier. And then for a while, I was thinking high A tier. Now I'm just gonna sort of set around low mid A tier. I think Artist is pretty good, but I think she's got very solid counterplay. The counterplay being just leaving the loop. Uh, this is especially horrible in maps like Area of Crews, which released with her, which have like literally. This is going to be off topic, but Area of Crews, the top half of that map with all the the tombs and that shit, is basically just a massive square with a pallet every like 10 meters. It's crazy. There are literally like 10 pallets in that half of the map. It's mental. And it really does hurt killers like Artist. But I do think Artist is really good in specific situations. You're basically guaranteed to go down if you're in the corner of a map or a secluded loop. And that being said, she can hit people off generators from across the entire map. If she can constantly sort of pressure you, even while chasing, I can just turn around. I can save so much time. I can search generators without actually having to go to them. I can be like, is there people on that gen? Send a bird? No. Okay, I don't have to waste my time going over there. I can send a bird. There are people in that gen. I immediately know where I have to go. Just these wee things I think is what makes her strong. Not actually her anti-loop, which is really strong. I think the thing which really sort of elevates Artist is the information you can get from her power. Unfortunately, her add-ons are kind of dog shit, so she probably could be higher. But your best add-ons are a yellow and a brown, so uh, not much variety there. Next is Executioner, who I'm sort of once again debating putting this high, but I think I will just because, like, if you're good with Executioner, you can outplay most loops. And your cages do allow you to tunnel someone out really fast. You're playing to win, so you are going to do that. I think the issue with Executioner is just holding W and keeping your distance, similar to like Nemesis and Pethead and stuff. As long as you sort of keep your distance from the killer and sort of zone the killer out, so to say, you shouldn't have much of an issue looping him. But if he does manage to get pretty close to you, he should get a hit basically every time. And once again, the cages, if you're lucky as a pyramid head, you can kill a survivor in the first like 3 minutes of the game, which can basically just instantly make you win. Next is Oni. Um, Oni for me sort of fluctuates. Sometimes I feel like Oni is, yeah, one of the best killers. And I'm like, granted, I'm really good with Oni. He's definitely my best killer. Which there might be a bit of bias, not because I like Oni, but because since I'm better with Oni than basically every other killer, my experiences might be a bit different with him. But that being said, I think even against good survivors, Oni still can't win. You just need to get lucky with that first hit. You just have to hope that you catch a survivor somewhat out of position so you can get an early hit or really loads of pallets early. It's all about the early game. If you get a good start, you should just basically win every game, especially on a favorable map like Macmillan or Autohaven where Blood Fury is just way stronger and they don't really have like a really strong structure like to work around. That's where Oni thrives just about the early game. You get a good early game, then yeah, he definitely deserves this spot. But I think it is reasonable to assume that the majority of your games, even against good survivors, you should be able to get hit within a decent amount of time. Next is Blight. Blight's second best. I've said it for a while. Really good add-ons, speed, ring, compound. Uh, really good mobility, really good chase. Really strong early game, able to find survivors fast, able to down them fast, able to force pallets. You know, the only reason why Blight is in S tier is because he is still limited. And there's still a lot of room for error as Blight. Despite Blight, in my opinion, being very hard to play, or to master, I should say, not the hardest, there's still a lot of room for error. It's still very easy to miss a hit as Blight. You're not a robot. You can still get juked by survivors, them wiggling and shit. Doesn't matter how good of a Blight you are, you're still going to miss hits, which is very crucial. And if you miss a hit at a crucial time, it can literally just cause you to lose the game. Not to mention how inconsistent he is. Um, you know, ignoring maps for a minute and how bad those can be for Blight, like Swamp, Indoor maps, Red Forest. Uh, maps are just really bad in terms of collision, the loops types, text shelter woods, for example. Most people think it's good for Blight. I don't think it's very good for Blight. The collision in that map isn't great, but the majority of loops on shelter woods are those rock loops, which Blight literally cannot play around. So, what does Blight do there? He's basically forced to play like 80% of the loops in that map as an M1 killer. And that is the case with a lot of maps and a lot of tiles. That being said, there's still the majority of tiles he can play around. Plus, he catches up really fast, really good mobility. It's still Blight. He still has all the strengths. And we'll just have to see if Blight ever gets changed in the future. But for now, he will stay here as the second best. And as usual, the best is Nurse. Nothing to say. Best use in the game. Low cooldown, high snowball potential, really high skill cap. A good Nurse is basically the only thing in the game that stands a chance against really good survivors. But that's my tier list. I think this is probably the most controversial one I've done, even in my opinion. I'm still unsure about some of the placements, but I think I'm satisfied enough with it. I sort of held off making this tier list waiting for the mid chapter, but they didn't really change anything. There was no killer reworks or anything, so this is it. If you like it, let me know. I always appreciate it. And if you've disagreements, also let me know and tell me why. So hopefully you enjoyed that. I do like making killer tier lists. I like talking about them and my reasonings. So there will be more in the future. We'll have to wait for the next killer, the ring chapter. Hopefully that sort of shakes up the meta a bit. But I think this is quite a volatile tier list. Some changes, like simply nerfing the healing meta, could change a lot of the placements. I'll sort of get into that in a different time. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching.